Hey everybody, it's Ron, and we are going to demonstrate today the Sisu Lab Startup Wizard. So the Setup Wizard is an excellent tool after you have powered up the system to get you ready for making programs and making sure that you haven't missed any of the steps along the way so that all your equipment is set up and ready to go. At this point, I've got the robot powered up and I've got everything started. So let's go ahead and have a look at the first screen that you see once Lab is open and ready to go. So the first thing that you'll see on the screen is the options to select New Program or Open Program. We're going to select New Program, and this will begin to get us through the programming setup so that we can select everything that we need to and not miss any steps. You have the option of selecting the program name, so you can name it whatever it is. Maybe it applies to the scene or the subject that you're shooting. And then once you have entered a program name, go ahead and just leave it in the program location, which is designated on the computer in the case. For right now, there's not really any need to change it to anywhere else unless you're going to save it directly to a thumb drive for your workflow purposes. Next, you have your set frame rate. Make sure that you go ahead and select the proper frame rate for what you'll be recording in. It won't make a difference on your camera what you change here, but it could make a difference in editing or positioning later on. On the next screen, under Configure Wand, this is essentially where you will calibrate the wand and set up the robot orientation. Calibrating the wand is very simple. You pick one of the frequencies, A, B, C, or D, and hit Run Calibration. The different letters are just different frequencies, and if you choose one of the letters and run the calibration, you'll notice that you'll get a green notification that the calibration was successful. If a yellow notification is set along with that, which will tell you that maybe there's interference in the area, just select a different letter and run calibration on that one until you see that there's no interference warning. Next, we have robot orientation. The robot orientation is a little bit different. You want to make sure that the robot and the case understand which way they're both pointing so that when you push forward, the robot actually goes forward and not left or right or some other direction. From your perspective, if I was standing where you are facing, so for example, if I was facing the direction that you're looking right now while you're watching this video, you would see the back of the robot with the cables, and you notice that the case is open and facing towards your left. So that's kind of the setup that we would want. We would want to rotate the robot image around so that the robot image on the screen of the tablet, we see the back of it. And then we'll rotate the case around so that the case is open and facing towards the robot like this. When it comes to this, it doesn't matter where you're standing. Just as long as the images on the screen match the orientation of the robot and the case in the room in real life. Continuing on from there, we're going to move into the actual configuration of the robot in its starting position, and then we're going to make sure that we run the robot's mastering check and the brake check. And these are good things to do before you set up and really get running, because they'll let you know if you have any issues that you need to deal with first. To do the setup position, highlight number 1, the setup position button. Pick up your tablet. Select Move to Setup Position. The robot will move itself into its original starting position where it's ready to go. Click Done after you are complete. So next we have the mastering test. Now the mastering test is the check for the robot to make sure that all the joints are in their proper positions when it comes to the XYZ axis of the robot, and that the robot can move properly without any issues. One quick note, before you do this, make sure you have removed everything from the end of the robot, including your camera, the dovetail plate, all of it. We want to make sure there's no weight on there and nothing accidentally gets pushed or damaged as the robot moves down in its position and makes contact with a sensor at its base. So to start the mastering test, first thing you're going to do is make sure that your robot, your sim, is in T2. If you miss that step, that's okay. It's going to tell you on the screen of your tablet, but it's a good idea to remember and keep in mind anyway. Next, we're going to hit the Run Mastering. You're going to squeeze the enable switch and squeeze the trigger. The robot will begin to move on its own into a fairly odd position. Make sure there's plenty of room, and this arm that's folding down and coming around is not going to hit anything like a table or a subject or anything else. What it's doing is it's coming down to its mastering sensor, which is located directly on the base. It's the small box, gray and black box with 2 yellow LED lights on the back and 2 green dots on the front. Once the robot has come down and the back of that cheese plate has just almost made contact with those 2 green dots, it's going to understand where it is in its position in the world, and it's going to complete successfully. Once it has returned to its startup position, it will say on the screen, mastering check complete. You can release the trigger, you can release the enable switch, and hit OK. Finally, step 3, we have run brake check. The brake check is very easy, it's very simple. You are going to hit run brake check, squeeze the enable switch, and squeeze the trigger. The robot is just simply checking the brake functionality on each one of its joints. You'll see each joint independently move a little bit, and you'll hear 3 clicks while it's testing those brakes. You'll notice on the screen that it appears that the brake check is still continuing. All you have to do is release the trigger, release the enable switch, and hit cancel. And underneath, go ahead and hit OK. Now that we have gone through the initial checks and tests, I'm going to go ahead and take a moment to put my camera on and get things set up, because we've got a couple extra things we have to do that deal with those. All right, now that that's done, let's go ahead and have a look at both the what we call the camera tools and then the lens setup. So I've got my camera and lens mounted, and I've already got them programmed into Sisu Lab. So I'm going to go through the final steps of choosing the proper camera and lens in the setup wizard and show you how that's done. We have videos already to show you how to profile and program in cameras and lenses that you may already have and want to use. Each one does need to be entered into the system that you select the proper ones. I've got my Red Raven attached, so I'm going to select on that one. And if I haven't selected on it before, I'm going to make sure to hit the Activate button. You can highlight one particular camera or another, but without hitting the Activate button, you haven't actually selected on it. Once you hit the Activate button, you'll notice a little check mark will pop up next to the name of that particular camera you've selected on. Then I'm going to move over to Initializing the Fizz. We do need to run the Fizz to make sure that they understand how far each gear will rotate for either focusing or iris or zoom that you may have connected. So I'm going to hit Initialize Fizz, and what I'll see on the screen is that whichever motors that I've actually got connected that are active with a blue dot, they'll say calibrating. Over here, if I look at my camera and lens, I can see the different gears turn, the rings that are focusing ring and zoom ring, for example, that we have. And once it's finished, I'll get green notifications on the screen that say the calibration is done and everything is good to go. Finally, I'm going to set lens configuration. Just like with the cameras, I'm going to scroll through my lens options. I'm going to find the one that I know I have attached to the camera. In this case, my Sigma 18-35, and I'm going to hit Activate on that. Once again, if you don't hit Activate, the lens isn't selected, and that can cause you real problems too. So make sure it's active with that check mark, and you are good to go. Down in the bottom right corner, you can hit Finish, and the screen will take you to where you can start making your program. Be sure that if you haven't done this already, from Mastering Check, you go back over and flip your key switch on the sim to T1 so that you're ready to program and you're ready to edit. Now that we've gone through step by step the Sisu Lab Setup Wizard, I do want to point out a couple of things. At any point in time during that wizard on a particular step that you're on, you can hit skip and jump right past that. So for example, if you feel you don't need to do the brake test, just go ahead and skip through that. Also, there is an option At the beginning or middle or wherever during the setup wizard, you can hit the option for skip all, and that will jump past the rest of the wizard and get you right into programming if you need to get going.